Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to United Theological Seminary of the Twin Cities. My name is Rai Sigelko, and I am the director of the Leadership Center for Social Justice here at United. And we're really excited. I have my friend with me here tonight. Some of you may know Dr. Oz Freeman, Jennifer Oz Freeman, who is here to present and introduce our artist and organizer in residence at United. And this evening's event, but Dr. Oz Freeman has lost her voice. Praise God. That's the only way we could get her to stop talking. No, just kidding. Or stop professing. No, so she is going to be here just in her presence and her body, but not in her voice. We're really excited to be celebrating this evening our artist and activist, artist organizer in residence, Ricardo Pérez Gonzalez. He is United's inaugural artist organizer in residence, or I should say he's the Leadership Center for Social Justice's inaugural artist organizer in residence. I know that in the past, United has a tradition of artists in residence. So this is a reboot of that, a recovery of that tradition at United. And we're trying to bring together art and social justice, which is a hallmark of United's theological education. This is also in partnership with the Theology and the Arts program at United. So Ricardo began as our artist organizer in residence last fall. He's been facilitating our monthly arts and social transformation lunches. And now we're really excited to be celebrating Ricardo and his work. He has an exhibit here. For those of you watching online, we're going to be walking around the building and with our cameras, and we'll be showing you the art, and Ricardo will be talking us through some of the pieces that he has on display here at the seminary. Born and raised in Mexico, Ricardo is a self-taught mixed media artist with more than 15 years of creative experience. He's also a coalition organizer at the Alliance Advancement of Equity. Is that the full name, I think? The Metropolitan Stability Alliance. He's a longtime organizer in the Twin Cities and a good friend of mine over the years and a very well-respected artist in town here. Now a Twin Cities resident, Ricardo recently created murals to reflect a spirit of collaboration with marginalized communities and lift up those whose voices need to be heard. He is partial to watercolor and ink media, and the title of his exhibit tonight is La Lucha Sigue, which in English means the struggle continues. Ricardo, I would invite you to come up. Let's give Ricardo a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi. Hey, everyone. Good to be here. Nice to see you. Thank you so much, Rai and Jennifer. So my name indeed is Ricardo Caballero Pérez Gonzalez. I was born and raised in Mexico, and I've been living here in Minnesota for almost 20 winters. Although some people like to say that previous winter doesn't count, but it does on my book, right? So, and yeah, so I wanted to maybe get the mood started by watching a video. But before we go through the video, I wanted to say, when I was first thinking about, being a part of what's happening tonight, I was a bit afraid on the fact that I'm not like a college educated artist. I didn't go to school for this. And I found myself in many rooms with like doctors, and it was a bit intimidating because I didn't carry that etiquette or that certification. But it's been really cool to learn so much from this experience and to find myself as a peer with people like Rai or Jennifer, understanding that there is not a degree of man, but it's something else that brings us together. And that's what this is all about, right? It's a manifestation of that I cannot control, but it's been a plan um, that has unfolded in front of my eyes in my immigrant experience, in my personal experience. Like I said, I didn't go to school to be here tonight, but I'm just, I'm proud to be here though, nonetheless, right? And it's not about being certified, but that's how the way it feels to me. It's very interesting. So all that to say, I am blessed with connections and relationships, right? In lieu of my academic degree and perhaps academic peers, my brothers, both family line and otherwise, and sisters have really helped me up to be here today. And this video is from my actual blood brother, my youngest brother. We were all really activated with the uprising that took place in the Twin Cities a couple of years ago after the murder of George Floyd by the hands of Minneapolis Police Department. And those decisions that we made back then, instant decisions, like, have led to chain reactions to moments like this, right? So this video, I really like it. I am biased. He's my baby brother. So, but I really like it, and it's setting the mood, and it's perfect for this place. It's about the spiritual experience of organizing, of being together, of the power of community manifested in a real scenario, right? So I'm hoping that our great DJ, video DJ, can maybe play it, and I don't know if I have to stand aside, but let us watch this video to open us up. You might find me there, right? So, all right, I'm over here. I'm not affiliated with them, I swear. It's not fun, but well, I didn't know it was like 4 years, right? Like today. So that's not, I actually didn't know that, I swear. Um, but yeah, like you might have seen the mural then in that video, right? Like that we're gonna tour in a second here, like on a very early stage. Me and my friend Sebastian Rivera, who is another organizer and artist here in the Twin Cities, produced the murals. And we thought initially that it was gonna take us one day to apply the mural, right? And little did we know, we were there for, I think it was a whole week. And as an artist, you have this idea of applying art and then going home and you're cool and that's it, right? But this mural did teach me like the process of being out with people doing art, like that was super special, super unique. And I'm so appreciative of that moment because it was like it transcended from art into something else. So I don't want to spoil it, and we're gonna look at the different pieces of the mural. But before we do that, though, speaking of this plan, right? Like I remember being on my house that day, and people were looking for muralists, like as you might, are you all from the Twin Cities region, like from Minneapolis at all? No? Where are you all from? Let's take it to the crowd. Where? Philadelphia, all of you? And where are you from? Oh, okay. 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 Were you there 4 years ago? And you, were you here 4 years ago? I see. So no, okay. And were you here? You were. Yeah. And how were you? Yeah. And you? Yeah. You. Um, so I don't even remember. So anyways, a couple things there, but it's like I don't like to, like the George Floyd murder, right? Like what a moment. But I've been thinking a lot about that. Like, why do we wait for something horrible to happen for us to do art in the streets? But in that moment, art became a vehicle for change, for building like social textile amongst us. So and it also served as a way of beautifying the streets because, as you might remember, and if you weren't here, what happened is like in Lake Street, right, which is a very diverse street in Minneapolis where a lot of Latino businesses are at, not because they love it there, but because that's where we have been able to exist. That street got looted heavily, right? Like there were a lot of like windows that were broken and stores that were broken in. Police precinct got taken over and whatever, like people showed up. Sometimes they say that some people they don't feel the love of the village until it's burning, right? Like some people don't see their power reflected until they destroy something. That's interesting, right? That's intense, but it's real. That day, people took over the streets and there was chaos. We were in a phone call, remember? And one of my mentors and friends, like he even got like physically attacked while we were on a call that night. Like it was real. Like it really happened here to us, and we forget, but this is so tangible. Like 4 years ago, and the murals are still there as a reminder, right? There were fires that occurred during that time, and I remember I don't live in Minneapolis. I live in the first city outside of Minneapolis, Richfield, but on my yard, which whatever, but there will be pieces of burnt city that will fall on my lawn, right? And these like perfect little suburban lawns that were getting all this debris from a burning city like next door, and not just the city but a street that I felt such a connection to. This is the street that my community have been able to thrive on, and now it was up in flames, now it was destroyed. And it wasn't because of our anything else but because of a horrible incident that happened, right? um, so these murals existed as a way of protecting these stores. Like they were putting plywood up so people wouldn't break in and do their thing, whatever. So a lawyer posted something on Facebook in Spanish that said, someone wants to paint a mural, alguien quiere pintar un mural. And in that moment, I was like, okay, this is my moment. I've never painted a mural, but I feel a calling, right? Like I feel the opportunity in the air in that moment for us. And I said, sure, I'll paint a mural, and like no one else said anything. I thought I was gonna have to compete or to fight my way through it, but it was like I was the only one that raised their hand. So one thing led to another, and we find ourselves painting the mural that we're gonna tour here in a second. Um, and as you can imagine, like as the video portrays, the city really changed and the moment was different than our usual reality. And when we were applying the mural, we were able to talk to people about what was happening. So I want to believe, and without a doubt, it's true that the mural is impregnated, it is saturated with these moments in community that we were out there speaking with people, painting this mural, doing the work. We weren't just artists at that point, we were we were like security for this law office because we were out there painting all the time, and so like we were like taking care of that place, we were doing art, we were like healing with community there who have been witness of all these things that were happening on Lake Street, as you saw on the video, right? So can you imagine like that opportunity, that moment, like, you know um and for me, I guess the biggest thing that I can take out of this is like what it felt like. And that's why I love this video that my brother made. I think he captures too, but it's like that feeling of togetherness, of being united, right? United Seminary. So it's like, yeah, what would the world look like if we're all working together for one cause, right? And in these moments of this mural, like communities seem to be working for one cause, which was taking care of your neighbor, making sure people were fed, making sure people were housed, making sure people were protected, taken care of, which seems kind of obvious based in our moral guidelines, but it's not, right? We're wired to be individualistic, to worry only about us and our individual experience. But in these moments of chaos, like that we showed up, like we manifested in a collective way, not in an individual manner, right? So again, these murals, the work that I've done in community, it is a communal experience, right? So that's why, as I think about the work that you'll do at the seminary, I think it is art, to be spiritual in community, to lead people with those feelings, with those notions. So, anyways, all that to say, just a little context, and then after these murals, like there's just a lot of things that happen, like that have led me to be here, so we've done other murals, non-political, I guess, some political, um but maybe just to finish this intro here, and you'll see it on the mural, but art for me leading up to this moment is very like personal. Like I love to draw or paint, and it was like almost like therapy, right? Like I could spend a lot of hours just thinking and putting things in paper, and the product at the end of the day was secondary, but it was the process that I was, like really, that's why I still do it, right? It is a great like therapeutic thing for me. But when you're doing art in community, it's like everybody's watching you do it and everybody's a part of it, so it really changes those dynamics, so our intentionality was to really lean on that public aspect of the art. So we work with other artists to have like an opening ceremony where we brought music, word spoken artists like rappers, etc., to like do art, as like to make it like a ceremony. Like we learned that it was up to us to make this mural as important, as ceremonial, as ritualistic as we wanted to. It was up to us, and we wanted to be as much of that as possible because it meant so much to us. So yeah, we'll see on the mural the pieces, like you'll see where we have other artists signing into the mural, and other instances like that, but again, I think like maybe the closing sentiment here is you can do something great by yourself, right? And you can maybe put it out there and people might give you 100 likes or whatever, but it's so different when you're bringing people on the journey of your own, of what you're creating, right? It's more complicated. It's slowing things down. You think it might take a day, it's going to take you a week, but the process of you accomplishing these collective goals are going to be so rich that I hope you see the value of it, in this example, at least, right? So um, I feel that's what I would like to share as an intro for this portion, but I would love to keep sharing with you all as we walk through the mural. So yeah, shall we? I don't know what do we need to carry, or all right. All right. shall we? I feel like the Hamlin flute person, remember when he was playing the flute and people fall? Anyways, all right. I like this, like an interactive thing. We get to walk around. Well, we can start with this one, although I haven't really talked much about this one. I kind of forgot it was here for a second. Um, all right, so this is another collaboration between me and my friend Sebastian Rivera. You'll see his Instagram tag over there, and I'm hoping to bring more info to post in that thing, but I didn't. So, but anyway, so this one here, I'm very involved with like something called anti-displacement, and it's this notion that like communities of color, like Black and brown people who live in places like Minneapolis or North Minneapolis, are very vulnerable to changes in the neighborhood. So if your rent goes up, you might be able to afford it. Some people can't, and they have to move. So these murals that we produce serve for two purposes. One, igniting people's imagination to the possibility of them, regardless of their vulnerability, being able to fight to stay where they live. And it was also to tell elected officials and other people that current residents should be invested on and should be protected. Many times the success of our cities and other business places depend on new clients, and everybody's looking for new clientele. But what we're telling people with anti-displacement is current residents need to be invested on and protected. So this mural was made with, again, my peer, but it was also made with an organization called Friends of the Mississippi River. There's a project in North Minneapolis called the Upper Harbor Terminal that you might have heard about it, but you all are not maybe from around here. But it's like they want to bring new development in an area that's kind of like poor. So that's how this mural kind of like came to be. And it's supposed to be a fighter, right? We want to fight to stay. And the mask is meant to be like a Mexican luchador mask. The colors on the mask are also hinting at labor union, like red and black. And it's someone whose skin is darker than white, so you can assume that it's a person of color. The city skyline on the background, it's also meant to be the city of Minneapolis. And the other cool thing about these murals is like, and like the other ones here, it's like this wasn't in a museum or in an office, but these murals were out in the street. So we would found properties in North Minneapolis that allow us to display the murals on their front yards or outside of certain buildings. So this is one of a series of three, I believe, but this is the one that I helped produce. And yeah, so you might see some um, elements on the art, right, that you might recognize in the other murals, like the city. In the other mural, the city is more alive, right? You'll see little windows and who lives in these buildings, right? And some elements of like the moon, but you might pick up on the style, right, of the art, I guess. So again, on the uneducated, kind of like street, like very naive art, I would call it, right? So anyways, so that's the one. So yes, please. Yeah, a lot of the faces and the drawings that I made are very androgynous. I would say that's the case here as well. Absolutely. Maybe not intentionally, but it is truly the sentiment as we have produced the bodies, for sure. But yeah, it's a theme for sure. Yeah. Thanks for picking that up. So, anyways, we can talk about it at the end, but yeah, let us maybe keep walking here. Um, and maybe we can start all the way in the end before we get to this one. I feel the lights are fancy. Okay, there we go. They'll turn on. Thanks for walking along. So maybe we can start with the moon here, right? You remember the moon? It was kind of like similar to that one there, right? So here's the George Floyd mural that you saw on the video, right? If you want to touch, you can see how, and Jennifer helped me hang this. I thought it was impossible to do like the way she did it. I learned I cannot work with wire very well. Jennifer is a true expert. So if you need wire things, she can help you. But this is what I told you, right? So again, this is not a canvas. This is not meant to be in a museum or in a gallery. This was meant to use to protect a building, right? So you see it. That's why it carries this history that it really happened, right? And the shape of the pieces is also very it's weird because the lawyer's husband was like made it like live, right? They were cutting the pieces to put on the front of their store, right? So that's why it's cut like this, and we might have to do a little 360 to be able to see all of the parts of it. But I will invite you to maybe turn to this way to start maybe with the center, and then we'll work on this wall. Um, so the name of the mural itself, it was called, or it's called like Black and Brown Solidarity. So again, George Floyd was murdered on 38 in Chicago. Lake Street, though, that's where a lot of the destruction took place. And we were thinking, how can we show this solidarity as people who speak Spanish, Latino immigrants, or people from Puerto Rico? We wanted to say, hey, we're out here and we're with you all. We are together in this struggle, La Lucha Sigue, right? So the way that we thought of merging or showing the solidarity was to feature flowers and plants that are native to Minnesota. The name of this flower is escaping me, but maybe we have a gardener who might recognize this type of flower. Are they Susies? No, I can't recall. Are they? Yes. Yes, Susies. All right. So that's that. And then there's some other ones, the little purple ones there, right? And then we're like, okay, so then we can put cactuses in it to show the like Latino or like the Mexican, in my case, I'm from Mexico, element to it, right? And maybe we can send that message to people that, yeah, there's cactuses here, there's Minnesota, like we are one, right? Little did we know, I didn't know this, and all this is kind of coming back, but George Floyd actually originated from Texas. The state plant in Texas is the cactus, right? So there was even another connection there that we came to learn as we were painting this. You might have seen some Sharpie, some messages, some things that emerge as this set on the street. I like to think of it like the mural fermented out in the street, right? Like it's when it's in a museum, maybe it's untouched, right? But when you're in the street, like who's gonna stop someone from writing? And I cannot delete it. I don't know, dude. But anyways, that's the reality, right? Like people were writing things in it. Um, Now, again, I tell you about the city, right? In this scene, the city is really alive in more than one way. The plants are kind of like moving. There is some fire in the background that you might picked up, evoking the moment in our city. The candles who are meant to reflect like our Day of the Dead ceremony, like they are alive. They're moving with everything in the picture, right? And my peer Sebastian created a stencil of George Floyd to again to just as a in memoriam of, and here's the dedication of the mural on this side where we have that. But again, the city is alive, and in these apartment buildings, we dedicated a window of these buildings to people who are evicted, right? So how many people have been evicted? So again, it was an opportunity to send multiple messages, right? Maybe you have to have a magnifying glass or be in this call to figure out yeah, it is about sending a shout out to the people who are evicted, right? Like anti-displacement, we recognize those who have been evicted. And we wanted to show inside of this apartment, there are people, right? There is life. And then some of the tenants in these buildings are holding signs of solidarity, right? So you might see them across the buildings. There's some behind you that we'll see in a second, I guess. But so I told you about the art. in here, we had some musical artists like have an opening ceremony and a closing ceremony, and these are their signatures too. So this is like a poet, another one, and then this musical band, which you should look it up in case you haven't. Huh? Yeah, Adam, another really great dude. He's so smart. Like he composes classical music. He came and played. I can't recall the name of the instrument, but you see, this is where organizing comes into place, right? Like we didn't want to hide this and do our thing and go home. We wanted to share with everyone we knew, everyone that could come and add this artistic value to things, you know? And it worked, right? Like it became more than just a mural. It was an experience, right? And I hope this doesn't is selfish. This is not only about art. Like, what do you do in your work? Like, who are you connected with? What is your intentionality to expand the notion of what's possible, right? So that's what I like to believe with those connections and intentionality. And yeah, so those are some of the elements here. And then if we turn around, maybe, um, yes, yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I know, right? It feels, yeah. 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 Thank you. Yeah, it's such a unique experience. Like, you know, I don't go to church, so like nowadays, I'll be honest. I'm not gonna lie, that's the truth. But I am deeply I do I have spiritual experiences, and those ones it is God, right? Like you know, like here's more. Like you thought you knew it all, but this is something else, right? So this is another great example. So you know, like this part of the mural was hard because we had to be in ladders, and as you can tell, we couldn't really even reach the very top. It was complicated, but these little mountains like came out of, you know, we also like we had a very simple design, but things just emerge, right? It is an experience. So this portion here, we were painting, and there was this woman who came up to us, and she told us about this like spirit of the mountain, right? This notion that in some cultures, like the mountains are these like guiding forces for spirits who are lost to help them find their way home. And I didn't know that, you know, but the lady that came to us when we were painting was talking about how the trees look like crowns, and this was like this like spirit of the mountain reflected in the mural, right? And then I realized like not only is she deepening our experience in painting this mural about these faces that I'm just drawing randomly, like it meant something special for her, but then it transformed this, right? This became that spirit of the mountain thing, you know, like we didn't know, like, but it was leaning on this uncertainty, on these strangers, on people that gave this incredible value, right? So and again, given everything that was happening, having this deep feeling of mother earth, or earth being a guiding force in this journey that we're all in together, felt very special, and it gave healing, I know, for me, and I know that people around us were, I don't know, it felt special, you know. So and then on the far right is the sun represented there, and then on the far left we have the moon, right, represented there. And the one you know, the one sign that tenants on the top of this building are holding up says free the oppressed. You'll see some dark clouds and the red background that again kind of like points at this moment of transition, of turbulence in Minneapolis. It wasn't aimed to glorify destruction, but in our culture, sometimes fire is renewal, right? It's a new rebirth. So imagine this, right? Like we're painting this mural, the city is literally burning around us, right? But there's this element of, okay, what comes after this? What do we want to work to secure after this moment? And it felt so real, right? Like we own the street. You saw the video. Like everyone was out there, everything was possible. And it was also with the pandemic, right? So people were getting released from prison, homeless people were getting housed. Everything that one time they told us it was impossible became possible in that moment. Even painting a mural when I'm not a muralist. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Um, so that's the magic of the art, right? It really challenges for you to question your own role, your own limitations, your own notions of what should be or shouldn't be. And I'm not saying you should look at me and I'm so good. What I'm saying, this is real. Like I have nothing to hide. This is my imperfections, and this is the good things that came out of being out there, you know? So as students or teachers or doctors or soon to be doctors, then how are you questioning your own role, your own capacity, your own limitations, your own audience of what you're doing, you know? And yeah, that's what I would like to share about the little mural here. Yeah. So you'll have any thoughts or comments or questions that we can entertain? Yeah. What number is it? 35 or 40? I can't recall. Um, I don't know. I use some no Roman numerals in some of the art that I do. And I cannot recall specifically why it was 40 though. So I'm sorry. I was past me send a clever message in the future that I didn't catch. But one, two, three, four, yeah. Yeah, there will be people, yeah. But anyway, so yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, thank you so much for letting me share. This is again very personal, and I'm so proud that this is here. I think it looks great. It was in my garage, and I think this should be more out there. I want to find places where the different pieces might be able to live, like nonprofits or places where this can be out in community where it was created. So churches, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, thank you all so much for your time and for letting me share. Yeah. 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 And in the clouds too. Yeah. That's a lot of the style that I like to bring into the art that I do is like little faces everywhere kind of deal. Kind of like too super saturated with things. And we were kind of jelly because like some folks would show up and paint their pieces like 3 hours, like with spray cans. And we were like, imagine like doing little lines, and then they were like, oh, 1 minute, it's done. What are you guys doing? We were doing this the smaller brush. Can you see it? But it's because we really loved being out there. It was a work of love, so yeah, there's a lot of detail, but it took a lot of time, so yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing, and appreciate you walking by or going by and seeing it, so yeah. Yeah. Oh,
You said that the art fermented. Um, I'm just curious if these were like the original colors or if they've changed over the last 4 years. And maybe what your experience of like noticing that change in the artwork and the relationship, maybe being on the street or being in your garage or seeing it in a public space again, like what that change has felt like for you.
awesome. Thank you. So I guess there's some deterioration, right? Like, so for example, like after a lot of the murals came to be, there was like a organization that arise that wanted to collect all the murals and keep them in these like temperature controlled warehouse, right? And we were like, that sounds great, but we own this, right? Like we wanted for like, not for us, but we wanted to be in control so we can be doing this, right? And I say we, thinking of my peer who also helped produce it, right? Because the pieces weren't so much out in the sun. I don't think the colors have changed so much. But for example, there's been some places where it's getting hit, like some scratches, and places where it's getting hit, like in the moon, there's like a piece of wood. We also installed these rings here, as you can see, for us to hang it. We had a gallery exhibit 3 years, 4 years ago, and we hang these with like climbing rope because they were so heavy. It was almost the art of hanging it itself, right? It would look really weird, like bondage or something, with all these ropes, and it was really, really funny. So it has changed as we have given it different uses, and yeah, like I debated a lot on like the messages we didn't create it, for us to paint it as it was originally intended to be, but we decided to keep most of it. I'm also concerned about the stencil, like the paper, So, long story short, we haven't altered it since it was produced. Only some parts to edit out some words that we didn't like, or So yeah, and then I can recall the second part, what was about color, and it was about the what was it? The second part you said? Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, no, so like I said, it was out there. Then we had an exhibit in St. Paul, and that was incredible. I loved it. But then it lived in my garage. I would see it every day, driving in. I would open the garage and it was right there, and it was like, oh, and sometimes, yeah, my wife, who was supposed to be here, but anyways, we put it out in my house one day, like, um but when I load up my van with the things, and I came here, and Jennifer was super kind to help me. And like I said, I doubted, like, we're not gonna hang things, like, but Jennifer proved me otherwise, or wrong, so yeah, to see it like all laid out is so special. It really feels super cool, honestly. And to see even the other one and this one, I can see all the connections, like the wood, the paint, the rawness, the imperfections. Like, it's awesome. I really like it, to the point where I don't know if he can go back into the garage from here, both because my wife won't let me. She already threatened me, like, you need to find a new home. And because I do believe that, yeah, maybe they belong out there, So yeah, but yeah, thank you for asking. Yeah.
Ricardo, I hope we'll get a lot of pictures about how it is hung here so that you can use that for other things. It has been a stunning addition to the seminary community over these weeks, just wonderfully so.
Thank you. That's great to hear. Yeah. Like I said, it feels cool because it's truly like something that was out in the street, and to see it now here in a different light is very special. So yeah, thank you for letting me put them out here. Yeah.
Part of what I love about art is all the transformation, like the experience of these being here and remembering back. This plywood never anticipated it was going to become a gallery. It was about protection. It was about keeping my store, keeping my home, keeping no more windows, no more fires. And then from that survival, protection, urgent moment of those days, to just see so much beauty emerging in the midst of the struggle and the uprising. And some murals are still here, but to drive around and the contrast with the beauty and the color in the murals, the fear, the hunger, the struggle, the survival, and the community organizing, and all these pops and murals was just astounding.
Yeah, no, thank you for saying. And actually, something else I forgot to add. We again, it was an opportunity for. So we were given this, right? Like we at one point we're like, oh shit, like there's all these reporters, you know, like we noticed that it was something, right? And we didn't want to like be like, oh, this is my art, like this is me, like come see. But you know, we like lean into sharing and giving more to everyone, right? So we work with a youth artist also who help us paint Waco Hub, and then this multinational front materialist to create this, right? So absolutely, right? Just like the pieces intended for one purpose became something completely different, so did our purpose and our role, right? Like I'm not only an artist, like I'm a mentor, like I can bring youth into this, we can bring other art, right? Like it's just a matter of challenging the notion of what we're expected to do and be, right? So and I think when I think about the work that you all do, that's very much what you do as well, right? So we are challenging the notion of what we can or cannot do, right? So yeah, 100%. It's real. So yeah, oh my God. So I'm so blessed. Like again, I didn't go to school for any of this, but I just keep going on this path of wealth, of abundance, right? If I choose to see it that way, and I do, and I try hard to do so. But I feel that this was a very art heavy moment in my life where after when I was painting, I would go home and I couldn't stop. Like, so I painted this mirror in my daughter's room, like in my house, like, you know, I just couldn't stop. It was truly like I was like moved by the spirit, you know what I'm saying? Like it was very real in my body, you know, like so very heavy on the art. Where if I look today, I'm very much heavy on the organizing aspect of things on my other side of me, who is more of an organizer. And I don't want it to be sad because I love this so much. This is therapy, right? Organizing feels more like work. But nonetheless, right now, I'm very much involved with like organizing people around anti-displacement, right? So in an interesting way, it's still that thread, but it's applying it in a different manner, right? So we recently, I mean, there was a legislative session. Speaking of the law of man here in March and April and May, and again, the unexpected came through where we were able to secure this big victory to put like some dollars into a fund to help us keep people in place in North Minneapolis, in Brooklyn Park, people of color specifically, you know. So again, I didn't go to school to be a finance person, you know, none of these things, right? But here we are again, like pushing the boundaries. Okay, well, maybe I can get this we can get this money, or maybe we can do anti-displacement like this. So I am organizing. I am a board member of Pueblos de Lucha y Esperanza. Pueblos has a base in North Minneapolis. When we think about anti-displacement, the audience of this art, that is the people who we're thinking of. So again, it's been incredible to see all these intersections merging or clashing, you know, as time moves forward. But it is truly this energy and notion of, rather than, you know, like investing in any other people, like let us find those folks who are the most vulnerable, the most oppressed, and let us work with them as the creator of the solution, right? Just like the creator of the art, like the creator of all of this energy, people can also, and they already have this wisdom inherent in us, like the spirit of the mountain. People know the best way that they can be, that they know the strategies to stay where they're at. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we try to figure out this great idea that's going to solve all these problems, when in reality the solution might be closer to us, you know? So I guess like that's kind of like what I'm doing nowadays. however, I am so appreciative of this experience because it has helped me get in touch with art again, be here again after 4 years to the day, so I see it as a moment where the value I see in these two things, organizing and art, have become very clear and very in front of me, so that's why I appreciate it so much. And yeah, so that's what I'm doing. I'm also a father of two, 6-year-old just turned, and almost 12-year-old. And yeah, so that's what I'm up to nowadays. So, and just take a special moment, special thanks to Rai, who again, super intentional at working with, organizing and art. Is not is not um it's not easy, right? Like you have to be intentional. It takes work. Special shout out to Jennifer to welcome me into this project, and to all of you who have this beautiful space that feels so peaceful, and such a place that can welcome something like this, because sometimes it's hard, right? Not everywhere they open the doors to big heavy pieces of art, so yeah, it's very special, and I feel very fortunate, and I appreciate you all being here tonight. So yeah. Yeah.
Want to go back and sit down, or was that? Okay. Oh, there's Margaret.
Yeah, the doors were locked in the entrance, so I've been listening in. I'm here in spirit, babe.
Oh, shoot. Sorry to hear that, Margaret.
It's okay. I'm enjoying.
Okay,
a few
good. You were able to see.
I've been able to see.
Well, thank you, Ricardo, for that presentation, for walking us around to see the art. And yeah, I know I've learned a lot. I think we've all have a lot to think about. Are there any other questions or comments that you'd like to share or ask Ricardo before we close?
I was wondering how long the murals were up before they were taken down and transitioned into your own space.
Yeah, so you want to say something? Oh. So how long were the murals up there? So let me see. We painted them in May, and it was probably a couple of months. Um, and I can probably, I think it was probably until September. But what I remember is like we were really nervous when it was time to bring them down, because again, they were put in place to protect the space, not to be canvases. So I, again, so fortunate, and this is where is the God thing, right? Where it's like we were so blessed, like the husband of the lawyer who helped us bring him down. They just loved the piece we did for them. They felt the love, so they were so careful when they were removing it, like they were treating it like art now, so they helped us take it out, and then we took it, like, I think immediately to the next gallery place where it's set for about a month. Again, shout out to Indigenous Roots in East St. Paul here in Minnesota. Without having a lot of accolades or whatever, they opened the door and gave us a gallery exhibit, and we showcases the video that my brother did, the murals and some photographs. So yeah, it was basically like once things start quieting down on Lake Street, that people were ready to have their storefronts again, or when they were gonna come and repair the broken glass that So for example, we did another mural with a place like CWA, like a Union for Communication Workers of America, I think that what it is. But very contrasting experience. We spent so much time doing this other mural that portray like actually black and white photographs and paint, and it was super, super cool. But they took it out without telling us. We don't know who has it. We don't know if it was destroyed, you know, so yeah, we got both experiences of a lot of love and then a lot of like, I don't care, you know, so. Thanks for asking though.
I have a question.
Yeah,
I'm interested, you made a comment earlier about sort of how we're accustomed to certain roles and sort of categories and this individualism, and then, you know, in moments of crisis, or, you know, like after, you know, during the uprising, during COVID. I mean, I guess I'm interested in this more generally, like
mhm,
in, you know, whether there's like, you know, think about like Hurricane Katrina, you think about disaster areas,
mhm,
I guess,
mhm,
like there's a kind of ethic that comes out that sort of breaks with, people
mhm,
start to break with
mhm,
expectations or their
mhm,
own expectations for themselves. They start
mhm,
to reach out
mhm,
to care for others,
mhm,
to become neighbors.
mhm,
You were talking about that. And I
mhm,
just wonder, like, if you could reflect more
mhm,
on what that is. What is it
mhm,
about disasters or crises
mhm,
that seems to
mhm.
kind of shift
Yeah,
things, and
yeah,
what can we learn from that, I guess? And how, yeah.
yeah, yeah, no, you know, I wanted to show the video first because it talks about that, right? Like that moment where we're all feeling something, right? And you're looking around the room and you realize that it's happening for everyone, right? So you saw all those like carton bags because people were donating a lot of food back then, because grocery stores, like everything was destroyed. So how are people going to survive, right? And I feel like that is such a spiritual experience, right? When you feel tangibly this energy, right? That it's making you uncomfortable, but in an exciting way of like something's happening right now, you know, like, and I feel that the more that you both take that in individually to let it marinate inside of you and let it impact you, then it's about how do you externalize that feeling to contage or to ignite someone else's, you know, like this, to highlight the similarities and to keep building that feeling. So I think we are, you know, like animals that are seeking these sensory experiences, right? Like we are moved by our senses. And even though the purpose is spiritual, or it goes deeper than that, that initial sensation of collectiveness, it's super powerful, right? So I think that's why when a disaster hits, you don't have a choice whether you're involved or not. Like you are in the street, you are in the neighborhood, you are in your city, right? And that's why it's like, why can we do this all the time? How can we replicate this moment without having someone brutally murdered in front of our eyes, like by a police, right? That's, as an artist, I don't want that, you know, but I want this moment again, right? So it's been sweet and sour to see the energy peak and then dissolve, right? But then you start seeing the elements, right? Like we are comfort is our enemy in these moments of action, right? We want to be home, we want to be safe, and jumping into action means not being in full control, trusting the collective, not your individual, right? So I think it's about trust and fear a lot, you know? So yeah, anyways, that's what I would say about that. Yeah. So that's a great point. How can we do that, right? All the time, right? Yeah. You all are in that business of getting people to move, you know, with that spirit, right? So yeah.
Thanks, Ricardo, and thanks everyone for joining us on this Friday evening. And we do have some more snacks and drinks if you'd like to have some, and stick around and we can chat more informally. But let's give Ricardo another round of applause. Have a great night.